across the world, different ways to lead,
Different voices giving what you need.
different angles, different views, all bringing something you can use.
From every corner, hear the call. Level up now, give it your all.
Mind, body, business, elevate, new perspective, shift your state. This is coaching call.
With Sifu Rafael. Sifu Rafael.
Sifu.
Rafael.
Different paths, different minds. Take what works, leave what doesn't align. Every voice brings something new. Now the choice is up to you. Take the insight, make it real. Turn the vision into skill.
From every corner, hear the call.
Step into it.
Stand up tall. From every corner, hear the call.
Step into it.
Stand up tall. Coaching call. With Sifu Rafael. Sifu Rafael.
That moves me every time. Good morning, Nancy. How are you doing today?
Sifu Rafael, great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited for today's call because we get to know more of who Nancy is. So the question that I love to start with is, where were you born and who would you say influenced you before the age of 15 even?
I was born in Michigan in a college town called Ann Arbor. And I think my biggest influence growing up was my sister, who was a genius and 1 year older than me, and the person I most aspired to reach growing up.
Wow. What do you mean by reach?
Well, because she was so bright, she was just a shining star everywhere. And I remember walking into every classroom and the teacher of that grade would say, "Oh, you're Kathy's sister. She was the smartest kid I ever had in my class," which sets up an unnecessary competition between siblings. And so my efforts were always to push harder, study longer, do everything I could to try to catch her.
Wow.
Kind of an impossible task.
Was it?
It was.
I kind of love that because without her necessarily thinking about it, she was inspiring you to dig deeper, right? Her brilliance just touched all around.
It
I love
did.
that.
And the interesting thing was she was paying zero attention to my efforts. She had her sights set on my dad, who was also brilliant, and she was trying to catch him.
I like that, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting how in life sometimes we're chasing someone, but what we actually are doing is pushing ourselves, right? Did you ever regret chasing?
I didn't regret it growing up. I didn't regret it early in my career because it was that pushing and that striving that led me to achieve some very large goals. And I think was one of the habits and strategies that drove my success. I came to regret it later, but we'll get to that during the call.
Yeah, absolutely. Nancy, you've had an interesting life. And when I say interesting in introspect, it's you didn't ever give up. And I want to thank you ahead of time, even before you start sharing your story, because you shared it with me, and I was wowed by it. Tell us, if you will, where would you like to take the story from? We have 55 more minutes. I want people to get the real picture of Nancy. If you want to talk about your childhood, you want to talk about when you were in your 20s, 30s, wherever it is that you want to pick it up from, I'd love to have you start.
I think I'd like to start in Silicon Valley.
Let's do that.
It's a place that may be of interest or a place that many of your listeners participate in. It's a very unique place within the world. It's highly competitive. I was in my 30s. it was at the time very male dominated. The tech world was a world of men, and I was a lone woman rising up in the ranks, hoping to become part of the club. And the way to do that was to push harder. And I think when it came to perseverance and stick-to-itiveness and striving, I was a queen amongst the kings. So I built a business. I started a company with a creative partner. She was incredible. And our mission was to get girls to put their hands on computers so they would grow up to be competitive with boys who were playing video games at the time. So it was very much a women and girls company. We were 94% women with a few very, very dedicated, passionate dads who were part of the team. And we became a bit of a media darling. We were venture backed. Paul Allen, formerly of Microsoft, was one of our investors, and we rose very quickly to great fame, if you will. We were kind of the it girls of Silicon Valley. And boy, did that feel great. After all that striving and pushing growing up and never matching up to my sister, I really felt like I had made it. And that was a fabulous feeling. The Valley was a glittery place and a place that gave me a lot of energy. And that continued for about 3 or 4 years until we started to run short on cash. And the truth of the Valley is that 9 out of 10 startups fail, but we don't talk about those. We talk about the one that was the great success that everybody wants to leverage in their own origin story. So I scrambled. I worked to raise money. I ended up needing to sell the business to my arch rival, which was like a dagger in the heart, just so awful. And something that I considered to be a failure, and one for me that was a first, and one that was really palpable. And I just crumbled. And I think when you're defined on roles and one of those roles goes away, like suddenly you're not a CEO anymore because you've sold your business, you don't know who you are anymore. And I decided I had to have my next conquest. I had to conquer something. And because I was an athlete, I'd been a runner all my life, I thought, I'm going to start to climb the 7 summits in the world, the 7 highest mountains. And the one I chose to start out with was the least technical. It included no ropes, no ice axes, no crampons. It was Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, which is the tallest mountain. It's in Tanzania. It rises some 19,000 plus feet, but it's not a technical climb. And my husband and I decided to do this together. He was also a Silicon Valley CEO on a break, and we trained and trained and trained. And I was really ready to take that mountain and prove that I could still succeed at something and redeem myself from what I considered to be this horrific public exposing failure that I'd had in Silicon Valley. Of course, I'm sure nobody in the Valley was even giving 2 thoughts to my business after I sold it, but for me, it was horrible. So honestly, Sifu Rafael had no business going up that mountain because I actually injured my back training at a gym on a broken Stairmaster, if you remember those back in the day. And it had no resistance in the pedals, but I ran so hard on it anyway because I was training and I was going to push through. And when I got to the mountain, I thought briefly about whether I should actually climb, but I just shoved that emotion down and thought, I'm going to compartmentalize this. I can handle it. I'm not feeling good, but after the mountain, I'll get some rest. And on the first day, I had to relinquish my pack because the weight of it was too much on my spine. And the second day, when I finished hiking after meals, I would just go back to my tent and lie down. By the third day, I really couldn't sit. I couldn't bear the weight of my spine on any chair. And the next couple days, the team created a back brace out of duct tape and an inflatable pillow to kind of hold my back together. And by the time I got up to 16,000 feet, where the oxygen is half of what it is at sea level, I just thought, I'm in trouble. And I remember being in this tiny tent at night, telling my husband, I need to go down. You summit. It's really important to you, but I'm in trouble. And this pain is really getting severe. I'll be okay at sea level. I'm going to go down tomorrow with 2 of the porters. which I did. And unfortunately, they spoke no English, only Swahili. And my Swahili was limited to my name and how I was, asking how they were too. And about 3 hours later, I'd collapsed in the dirt on the side of a mountain and I just couldn't move my legs. And I remember they carried me to a plateau where we did an early camp for the night. And I woke up at midnight and literally could not move my legs and tried to shift my weight. And I felt like somebody was driving a dagger through my spine.
Wow.
And I had two thoughts. I thought, number one, that I could actually be bleeding out and I could end up with my name on a rock, like so many climbers who don't make it down these mountains. But the second thought I had was, my whole life has been organized around pushing. And this is what I did to try to make it up this mountain. And this is not working for me. And you might think that that experience, that personal heart attack moment, would have been the moment when I realized what resilience was really about and that it wasn't about pushing through. But it took me 15 years to learn that. So that's where the story started.
Oh my goodness. What an incredible start, if you will, to the show, because it goes to show that you understood pushing through. And I gotta say one thing, when you said that you sold to your competitor, most people would see that as failure, but I see a benefit. I see the fact that you were actually able to sell. Some people go bankrupt and are not able to sell. So there's a bonus there that I see, right? And I'm always looking at the positivity of things, even when they go bad, right? And so you were able to sell, and I'm sure it wasn't what you probably wanted, but you were able to sell. So it was a plus. And your husband is basically in the same realm as you, right? What is it that made you decide to even create that company? Because you wanted to give the space to women to rise up where the boys were playing games, if you will.
Absolutely. I thought it was just important to do something. I was in tech, so that was the world that I knew. And I thought, in my own way, I have to give these young women, these girls, a leg up and just lift them up so they can grow up and be competitive in a way that I had to work doubly hard to do. So it was my own contribution to women and to girls, if you will.
I love that. Because you're right. So many people count out the girls. And I got to tell you, I've known some who are beyond brilliant, and just like your sister, right? And consider the fact that you decided to help others become something that maybe they didn't even imagine they could do. And you gave them a leg up, or you gave them a framework to really expand who they could be. So that kudos to you for doing that.
Thank
right?
you.
Yeah. So you said 15 years. 15 years it took you to realize. What was it that took you 15 years from that thinking you were bleeding out and you didn't want your name on a rock? Because whoever wants their name on a rock, right? Right? Talk to us about that.
Well, the first 6 months were particularly curious because I searched for an answer to the pain and what was wrong with me. And I went to a hospital in Nairobi. I went to a hospital in London. I went to my hometown hospital at the time in San Francisco. And the doctors on all three continents did MRIs, did x-rays, and came in and basically said, "You're fine." And I still remember most vividly when my hometown doc walked into the hospital room where I had been admitted for intractable pain. and I couldn't walk, and my husband was on one side of me and a commode was on the other because I was too weak to get to the bathroom. And he said, I have great news for you. You're going to be fine. We're just going to give you this prescription for OxyContin to help get you through, and you're going to be able to heal. And I think at the moment, I almost felt disbelieved, like my suffering was somehow being discounted, and it just creates this break or this shift in your brain where you start to wonder, is this me? Is this real? Am I kidding myself? And I think that the pain is horrible, and the loss of self-trust is another thing. But the good news out of all that is that finally a doctor found the problem, and basically further testing showed that I needed surgery and that I had some fractured vertebrae and a smashed disc. And they put me back together. And you think that that would be the good news because it would be a time-bound recovery. But by the time they operated on me, the pain was so severe, number one, that it was like a switch had flipped in my brain and the pain signals were just running rampant. And the more critical thing was I was already highly, highly dependent on OxyContin and then fentanyl for pain relief to try to dull those jagged, sharp edges that kept poking through my body or felt that way. So I was forced to live lying down. And horizontal living is a very strange thing, if you can imagine that. You're constantly analyzing ceilings. You aren't ever at eye level with people. You realize that doctors' offices have very hard floors and they never ask you if you need to lie down. So my life shifted in unimaginable ways. And the most critical way was I lost who I was. And I really lost myself, but I kept pushing. And every time I started to feel a little bit better, off I would be trying to get back to normal. So this pattern went on for a very long time.
Wow. So your perspective definitely changed because now you're counting ceiling tiles. You're looking up at the lights. It's something that we may look at for a quick second, right? When we're doing something on the floor or whatever, we look up. But you were constantly in that position. I can only imagine that it had to be, I'm going to say the word aggravating, because the pain was aggravating. Your position was aggravating. How did you do it? And for how long did you do that for?
I lived lying down, fundamentally, occasionally getting up for a meal so that my digestion would improve. But I did that for the better part of a decade.
Wow.
Before I started to mobilize a little bit. And I will tell you that that is excruciating. It's frustrating. It's anxiety provoking. You think your life is over, and it's boring. Also, you know, lying down used to be my happy place. I loved bed. I would rest there. I would read a book there. I'd watch TV there. I'd sleep there. And you love it until you have to be there. And then you start to hate it.
Yeah, you how did you deal with it? Because if you're thinking almost 24/7, right? For a decade, oh my goodness. So your mobility was extremely limited. You weren't going places. And if you were, how did you even get there?
The way that I got to the doctor, which was the main place that I went, was lying down in the back seat of our car, because sitting for the 7 minutes to get to the appointment was on some days not bearable. And I'll tell you, the back seats of cars aren't that comfortable either, because they have these seat belts that impale you and all kinds of lumps that you wouldn't expect, that you never know about when you're sitting comfortably on them. But it became so challenging that I remember we had to take the cushions off of the couch and replace it with 4 layers of memory foam and a comforter because I was so sensitive to anything touching my body. I was like the princess and the pea. So it was a very difficult existence.
So when you went to these visits, who took you? Was it your husband? He need help? How did that work out?
An interesting thing happens to your marriage when you get sick because pain changes the texture and the rhythm of your marriage. And my husband became my caregiver and I became his patient, and that changes everything. You know, when you're a partner and a wife or a husband, you listen, you laugh, you hear about their day, you contribute, you share things together. They're intimate experiences that you enjoy, and all that goes away. You can't do that. You know, as a person in pain, you're completely changed and altered by the experience, and you're kind of focused inward, not outward on that other person. But he was a saint. He was one of those guys that sticks by you no matter what.
Wow.
And in many ways, the bonds deepen because of the shared adversity and the shared experience.
Incredible, incredible. So, veering off topic for a second, because you just told me about an incredible human being. How'd you meet your husband?
We were both in brand management at Procter and Gamble together. And I have to say that I chased him down and asked him out, which was kind of unheard of back in the day when I was a young pup. So I advocate that for all the women out there that have somebody that they know is the one.
Yeah, don't wait for opportunity to pass by when it's right in front of you, right?
You know it.
I love it. I love it. And the only reason you chased him down is because you knew what you wanted, right?
He was the one.
He was the one. What an incredible, human being he became because of you, right? I'm not saying he wasn't before, but I'm saying because he had to step up in order to say, hey, you know what? This is really who I am. And this is not what I asked for, because he didn't ask for that for you. He didn't ask it for himself, but he stepped up to the plate, right? And he got ready to take the bat and hit it out of the ballpark. 10 years you're in this situation, and you said slowly you started to get better. How did that happen? What was the prescription, if you will? What was the willpower that lived inside of you that made that?
Well, this is interesting because I really had to hit rock bottom, the worst of all of it, to begin to pull myself back up again and really participate. And I'll tell you a short story. I went to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and they had a pain rehab and drug detox program, and I desperately needed both. Lying down all the time, addicted to fentanyl, and they have a 3-week program that interestingly pushes you as hard as I used to push myself. And in the first week, they pull away all the drugs. And I will tell you, Sifu Rafael, withdrawal is real. It's physical, it's neurological, it's emotional. It just racks your system and turns you upside down and inside out. And once you get through that, then the second and third week, they force back physical function. So I went from that lying down position on the floor of the conference room, staring, counting the dots in the ceiling tiles, and I began to walk again. I had to force myself to sit and to move a little bit, but it was really aggressive. And at the end of the 3 weeks, I landed in the hospital. I was in worse pain than ever before and on a higher dose of opioids. And there was a moment when my doctor walked in and he said, we have done all the testing we can do. We've tested you neurologically, psychologically, orthopedically, pharmacologically. We just can't, we've done everything we can. We don't have any plays left in our playbook. And we're going to need to discharge you. We'll help you try to manage your pain, but we can't do anything for you. And I just thought, the medical system has done its best and it doesn't have anything for me. nothing more for me. And it's on me now. And as I'm having these thoughts, my husband had gone off to work, but what I later learned is that he didn't go to work. He went on a tour of nursing homes to try to place me because he just couldn't care for me in this situation anymore. It was becoming impossible. I was just too sick. And I realized that I really had to get aggressive with my own care, and that maybe that pushing was causing me further harm, and that the way that I had run my life was working against me, and there had to be a different and better way. And the happy story is that my husband ended up taking me home. He was completely flipped out by what he saw, and the thought of putting then a 45-year-old woman in
Right.
the nursing home would have just been untenable. And we very, very slowly, carefully, with the help of a great physical therapist, I learned to walk again because I had lost that ability when the pain was so severe. I was bedridden for too long. She taught me how to climb a stair again, which was something that I couldn't do. So I couldn't sleep in the same room upstairs as my husband because the stairs were too aggressive. So I had to sleep on my 4 layers of memory foam in the living room on the couch. So life had gotten pretty bleak.
Right.
But the good news is that very slowly, a very deconditioned body, which was mine, started to get a little bit stronger. And my desire to be out in the world again was overpowering everything. So it was really about my mindset and knowing that I couldn't live this way and I had to make it through. And I decided, this was in the days before online education, that I was going to go back to graduate school because I was sick of staring at the ceiling. I was bored and I had to get in the world again. I was very isolated. And I applied to grad school for an international development program, again, to lift up women and girls. And I got in, but first I deferred because I wanted to wait until I was normal again. And I had a very wise therapist at the time who kept talking to me about something that she called the new normal. And that to me was a horrible term. In fact, I told her, I said, Susan, I hate the new normal. I hate this. It's a horizontal, monochromatic, isolated life, and it's not who I am or who I wish to be. And she said, you know what? You got to stop. You got to stop fighting it. You just have to give in a little bit and start to accept and adapt to what you can do. And that was very sage advice. I realized what I could do was use my brain. Still, that was fine. What I couldn't do was walk into a room and sit down for 3 hours in a seminar like everybody else.
Right.
So my husband and I came up with the idea of going to grad school, but doing it lying down, which is something that most universities that do ADA aren't used to either. And we came up with the idea of an army cot that was portable and foldable, and you could set it up in about a minute and pull it along in a little personal shopping cart and blow up an inflatable mattress. And there I would be lying in class with all of my sitting up colleagues. So that's what I did.
Oh my goodness.
That was the key.
What was the take you would say that you noticed from the other students? Because that had to be different for them, no doubt.
I'll tell you 2 quick stories that I remember from that time. The first was orientation day, and I came in early. I set up my cot. There were round tables in an auditorium, and all the students were seated at these round tables in their shorts and their hoodies and their tennis shoes. And I was lying down a little overdressed, probably, on my cot, and it came time to introduce ourselves. And I remember, because I'm lying down, I'm propping myself up on my elbow, which probably had a huge callus on it by that point, and tried to get up to eye level where they were. And I said, hi, I'm Nancy. I sustained a severe spine injury on Kilimanjaro. And I'm going to be like you see me here in class lying down. And I just want you to know that I'm good with it. So you can be too.
Mm.
Now, I'm not sure if I really felt that. I think I was pretty terrified, to be honest with you, but I had to voice that emotion and share those words with those other students to get them comfortable, because the question running through my mind was, are they going to accept me? Am I going to fit in here? Will I be able to survive this? And that was a critical moment. But the real moment came about 6 months later in a peace and conflict class. We were having a lecture about refugee identity when you're stateless. And I remember the prof saying, let's take a few minutes here. And I want everybody to think about their identities. And I want you to write down what you are and what you aren't.
Mm.
And my classmates are like muttering, like, I don't know how to do this. And I thought, this is easy for me. I used to be a CEO. I used to be an athlete. I used to be a wife and a sister and a daughter and a community member. And now I have chronic pain and I'm disabled and society isn't ready for me. And I could barely get those words out of my mouth. And my classmates started interrupting me. No, that's not how we see you. You have great things to contribute. You have all year. You just happen to do it lying down. And that was like a big epiphany for me, because I realized that it didn't have to define me. My physical limitations didn't define me. And that was a huge opening in the world for me.
Yeah. One of the things that I've spoken about is disability, right? And it's just take out the word dis and it's ability, right? You have the ability to do so much more, but sometimes people put that label on you or me or anyone else. And the only reason I can say that is because I had polio as a kid and I lost the ability to walk.
Oh, so sorry.
So for me, listen, I think it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I understood, just like you do, what it means to get back up and do it. So eventually I want to, and I got to say, that first day when you told them, you were really telling yourself, weren't you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Not only was I telling myself, but the only person who thought that I was disabled was me.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. So you decided that you were going to handle it. You were going to take care of you, because right now you're not laying down.
That's right.
How do we get here? How do we get here today? That's a beautiful story, by the way. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, it was a very long journey. From grad school back to health took about 7 years.
Mm.
And I think that in an interesting way, the act of having to get 10 minutes to school, pull my cot in, set it up, and then lie down started to strengthen some very deconditioned muscles because I was so weak. And I eventually graduated from physical therapy and found a fantastic personal trainer at a nearby gym. His name was Mark, and he helped a lot of people with chronic spine problems and acute injuries come back to health.
Mm.
And the first day I went to see him, I remember I really couldn't sit down. So I stood up and I had a legal pad with me to take notes like a nerd. I mean, you never see that in a gym, but I didn't know. And he came, we went over to the mats and he said, we're going to do a couple planks. And I thought to myself, I can't sustain a plank. There's not a chance. I mean, not even for a second. I just collapsed. That's how weak I was. And he, in the course of 7 years, seeing him every week and continuing to go to class and do my cot routine, I slowly but surely started to regain strength. And after I graduated from school, I thought, if I could go to school in this way, in this kind of contained way that felt very safe, maybe I can enter more of the world that way. And I started to travel buying 3 seats in coach and lying down.
Wow.
That was interesting because you can imagine the people on an airplane. I was flying between San Francisco and New York, where I was working for a women's refugee organization. And the number of people that tried to take my aisle seat where my head was, I can't even count. But I slowly realized that there are so many ways to be in the world. I mean, we're all individual. We all have our issues. We all struggle, and we all find a way to participate. And that was what I was really determined to do more than anything. And I couldn't push to do it. I had to adapt to do it. And it took that kind of agility and flexibility to figure out a way that was a very unconventional way, but a way back. And between, working and school and training, I slowly got my physical capability back. And after I got my body back, it was time to get off the drugs.
How hard was that?
Horrible. It's like Chinese water torture, honestly. I had obviously failed at it before after the Mayo Clinic, and this time it took a year. But I had a fabulous doctor who was very patient and who said, we're going to peel back the onion in a tiny way every month, and you'll feel sleepless and anxious, and you might be a little nauseous, and then your body will regulate, and then we'll start again. And that's what we did. But I really wanted to be clean. I just wanted off of all that fogginess. And I wanted to be clear-brained, clear-minded.
Wow. Incredible that you found the right person, right? Because he didn't try to do it after a month or what. No, it as long as you needed. When were you able to sit for 5 minutes even?
It was probably, it would be periodic, because recovery doesn't go like this. It goes like this, as I'm sure you well know. And the setbacks were severe, but in between them, I would have periods where I could sit for a few minutes. But I just couldn't do anything sitting up. I couldn't conduct my life and do normal activities sitting up. I had to lie down.
Got it. And how about walking? How long could you walk before you felt overwhelmed?
It depended on the day. Sometimes it was 2 laps around my living room, counting the steps, and those were the bad days. On the good days, I could go outside and go to the end of my block, which was about half a block and back. So it varied. It really varied. And then but I slowly got stronger. And, now I'm hiking in the mountains again and back at it. But it took a lot of perseverance and a lot of hard work. But I think all recoveries, are about putting your head down and working your way through.
Yeah, for sure. Let me share a video with you and everybody else.
You followed the rules, tried the restrictions, counted the carbs, the steps, and the failures. You're not lazy, you're exhausted from doing it all without real change. What if the problem isn't you, but the plan? Sifu's Mind-Body Method is a 90-day transformation built on 7 unshakable pillars: mindset, movement, nutrition, hydration, fasting, journaling, and faith. This isn't another shortcut. It's your structure, your strength, your reset. You don't need harder, you need better. Ready to begin? Start today.
Not easy for anyone to get into the kind of shape that they would like to be in, right? Not easy for you to get off the cot, if you will, and be able to function. And now you're traveling, you're doing things. Listen, you started traveling with 3 seats. I'm sure now you're not doing 3, right?
Well, I used to buy a seat for Nancy Deyo. I'd buy a seat for Nancy Deyo Extra Seat 1 and a seat Nancy Deyo Extra Seat 2. And now I'm happy to say that I fly in a single seat.
Nice,
So
nice.
that's my reward.
That is, congratulations.
Thank you.
um, it was not cheap, I'm sure. And how about getting to the destination, because you were flying from San Francisco to New York? What would happen when you would get to New York? Did you have to get wheeled? How did that transportation happen from one place to the next?
Yeah, at that point, it was after grad school, and I was able to navigate the airport. I would just lie down when I got to the transport. So if I was in a cab or I got a car, I would just lie down in the back seat. So at that point, sitting was still the hardest thing, and walking was more manageable because I'd been doing it back and forth to class. And uh, I just had to be horizontal as much as possible. And
Mm.
in work, that's possible also. You can lie down. And in one job in San Francisco, I had purchased a lie down chair, almost like the astronauts used to use, that could tip you upside down. And I would lie in that, or I'd lie on the floor.
Mm.
Or when I was stronger and could stand, I'd stand up. A lot of people do that. That's a little bit more accepted and more normalized in society to see people working standing up. People even have standing desks now, but lying down is a little unusual.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, listen, if I was walking through an office and I see somebody lying up, like, are you okay? What's going on? Why are you lying down? Right.
That's right.
And I'm sure you probably got that as well from people who didn't know you or walk by. So how did you decide to start working for the organization in New York?
I had done some volunteer work for an organization where the ED and I worked together. The executive director and I worked together. And when she moved to a new organization, I had contacted her and just said, I'm a little better. I can do this. This is what it will look like. And thankfully, she was very open-minded and welcoming, which is something that you can't say for all employers.
Right. Yeah. Because a lot of people would not even consider you because of that.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Um, how long before you totally gave up the cots, laying down? You said it was 7 years, but was it gradual, or like one day you were like, oh, wow, I don't need this anymore. I can sit for a while.
It was very gradual. I wish there had been one day when I said, voila, I can get rid of this, but it was really gradual, where if the cot was with me, I would be on it for 3/4 of the day instead of the whole day. And then, sitting up for a while. So, I learned the hard way that pacing is its own form of discipline. Doctors will tell you to pace. You probably heard this when you were trying to get well again when you were a kid, but I think they don't have a playbook for what that looks like. And so for me, I thought that having receding pain was the green light to get up and go. And it really needs to be done very methodically and gradually. And I think that it's a very misunderstood art form. And I think when you have a very achievement oriented personality, you think pacing is holding yourself back, instead of respecting your limits and listening to your body and doing what it can handle on a day it can handle it.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I am very strong on is listening to your body. That's what my program's about, Sifu's Mind Body Method. It's, you need to listen to your body because your body's speaking But if you're not listening, that's where we get into problems, right? So considering all you've been through, your resilience is beyond, right? And so many people, and I'm going to say this, you were giving a challenge, and the only reason you were giving the challenge is because you could overcome it. You can handle it. And it wasn't an easy challenge, but you did it. And you need to be proud of what you accomplished, and just the fact that you're here talking to me about it. You're helping other people who may be going through something right now, that they're having the most horrific time of their life, but knowing that there is brighter days coming. They just have to persist and keep going no matter what. So considering all you've gone through, you still want to contribute and you want to help other people. Why is that so important to you?
Well, last year I wrote a memoir about the experience of my business of Kilimanjaro, the 15 years. And as I worked this year to find the right home for that book, I felt almost like I had this moral responsibility to share what I had been through honestly, because I think that a lot of stories like mine are told where survival becomes a triumph, or it's romanticized, but it's humbling and messy, and you're a mess, and it's ugly, and it hurts. And I think we need to tell the whole story. And because somebody might be stuck in that messy part where nothing's working and they're just alone and feeling like life is over, but it's all possible. And I felt like it is my gift to pay that forward, because I actually was one of the lucky ones. A lot of people don't make it through. But if I can share what I learned in a very vulnerable and authentic way, then maybe somebody out there will feel seen and not feel so alone, and will understand or pick up one or two ideas from something that I might have done or said that would help them. So that's why I do the work that I do.
Gotcha. Now let me ask you, has anybody ever asked to study your recovery?
No.
Because that would be interesting.
It would be interesting. It could be a case study.
Absolutely. Nancy, your brilliance definitely shows in the way you want to help people. What are you doing currently that is allowing you to do what you're passionate about?
I think that number one, I'm very focused in the present moment. I don't spend my life looking forward or looking back. I'm current. I listen really hard to my body every day. I need to. I try to determine what its boundaries are, what its limits are, so that I can do my best within those on any given day. Try to stay flexible. I try to spend time out in nature. I'm a bit of a movement and exercise freak. I love to hike. I love to work out. I think it's because I finally can do it again. It brings back my youth and being an athlete. So I think it's just kind of ingrained in me. So those are some of the things that I do to enable me to fulfill this passion of trying to lift up other people who are struggling.
And you talked about being a workout freak. What is a regimen that you go through, and how often do you work out?
Daily. I hike every day for at least an hour. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, so I have mountains all around me.
Nice.
I ride a Peloton bike every day, sometimes more aggressively than others. But it's all important cardio, and I strength train. So that's an every other day activity. And I feel like that system for me is what keeps me healthy. It what keeps me pain free. It keeps me clear headed, and it keeps me healthy so that I will have a long health span.
Yeah. I love the fact that you didn't just say cardio, but you incorporated strength training. Because a lot of people think they're like, oh, I don't want to get muscles. I'm a woman. I'm like, no, it's not about that. It's actually being strong, right? So talk to us about your strength training, if you don't
I use a tonal, which is a resistance training machine, which is really fabulous. And my husband and we work out together, which is great.
mind.
It's kind of like having my personal trainer, Mark, who I miss dearly. When I moved, I miss him. And we have different workouts for different parts of our body. If we're working, biceps or triceps or quads or glutes, we'll vary the workouts so that we can keep at them every other day. And the great thing about this particular system is that it knows your strength. So it's constantly moving you when you're ready to move up and be more aggressive. So it's a little bit like having a personal trainer.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and that's a great system, by the way. When you consider the fact that you, at a young age, were chasing your sister, and she was chasing your dad, who are you chasing now?
Nobody. Myself. I think it's okay to compete with yourself.
Yes.
I've realized, and I'm pretty good with that now.
Nice. Good for you.
Yeah.
So, in that consideration, where is your academic um, availability helping you in your new challenges? Because I can already see that you're constantly challenging yourself because of not only what you've been through, but because of how you've developed that brain of yours, right? Knowing that maybe I am going to be horizontal, but I can still challenge myself mentally. So you're continually doing that. Tell us about that.
Well, I am a huge believer in lifelong learning. And I think going back to grad school at 50 was the beginning of that. But several years back, I went and applied for a fellowship at Stanford it was called the Distinguished Careers Institute, but it really is for people at this stage in their lives to go back and study something that they're passionate about. So I went back and studied global health and creative writing, which enabled me to better understand the health, better understand women, and then to continue my journey by being able to put words on a page that describe what happened.
Are you considering writing another book outside of what happened and more of the help that you're giving to women?
All things are possible. I think when you're a writer, you never stop. Or hopefully you never stop. You're always needing to put a pen to the page.
Yeah, I love writing. It's so freeing, isn't it?
It is. Well, I journaled the whole way through my chronic pain. So that was a poignant record of those days and something that I've gone back to many a time.
Mm. Do you still journal today?
I do, every morning.
Yeah.
It's nice to do that when your brain isn't self-editing.
Yes. Yeah. And journaling to me is an incredible gift, right? because we can always go back and say, oh, that's what I was thinking. Oh my goodness, why was I thinking that? I love that idea of going back, right? And understanding where we were and how far we've come. You talked to me earlier about a trip that you have coming up. And that's really fascinating because you're going back to a place that really transformed you. Talk to us about that.
Yes, I'm going back to Tanzania to the site of Kilimanjaro, but not climbing. In fact, most of my friends that know I'm going think I'm going maybe to try to conquer the mountain first, finally, and make it to the top. But honestly, it will be fascinating to be back there. I'm sure I will be flooded with memory. In fact, we're even staying at the same coffee plantation that we stayed at when I was carried down the mountain to safety before we made our way to Kenya. But I think this will be a wonderful repeat without the performance of having to try to go up the mountain, because I just feel like I don't need to. I'm not trying to redeem myself from anything. I'm not coming off of some flagrant failure that I'm trying to prove I can still succeed at something. So it will be a wonderful homecoming, but a different one this time.
Mm. And you told me what you're going to be doing there and how long you're going to be there. Are you okay to share that?
Oh, of course. My husband and I will be on safari in Tanzania and in Rwanda, and we will be there for 6 weeks. And it's a beautiful rhythm of rising with the dawn and being out with the animals in their natural habitat. Lots of time, this time luxuriating, lying around and reading, but in a way that I actually love again, instead of being forced to be horizontal, and doing the late afternoon game drives to see the animals when they're hunting. So it's nature at its finest. The vistas are gorgeous, and I really feel like it's home. So I'm really looking forward to being back there.
Nice. But you're not going for a short time. You're going for a little bit of time. How long are you going for?
6 weeks.
Nice. Nice. So how long is the trip from New Mexico to there? It's not a straight flight, right?
Oh my goodness. Nothing from Santa Fe is a straight flight, since you can't get anywhere from here. But it's several flights, and it probably takes a better part of a day to get there.
Mm.
Yeah, it's clear on the other half of the world, other side.
There you go. Beautiful. I got to tell you, what a pleasure getting to know you a little bit. And I want to thank you for that today. I want people to be able to connect with you. So I'm going to put your website across the bottom. Tell us your website. Tell them why they need to connect with you and how you can be of help to them. If you don't.
Well, there are 2 places that I would love to hear from people. The first is on my website, and that's Nancy Deyo, DEYO.com. And there they can connect, email me, see other media appearances, and basically subscribe to my Substack, which is the second way to stay in touch. If you want to follow my writing, I write a publication called Life Inside Pain, where I share stories from my experience, but importantly, some of the insights that allowed me to survive and come back to a life that made sense to me. And that's at Nancy Deyo again, .substack.com. So that's another great way to participate, to write to me, to tell me about your own experiences, because I think we need to let each other know that we're here and we're a community.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who are watching, both of them are going across. One is going across the screen and the other one's right up on top. So you can go and follow and connect with Nancy. Nancy, an incredible pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time today to be here with me. Anything that you can suggest to the listeners? Maybe I tell every listener, do me a favor and share this show with somebody. Somebody needs to hear today's message. What would you want to reach out to them?
I'd say pain is not the enemy. It's information that most of us are taught to ignore. Create your own definition of resilience. Figure out the best way that you can move forward. And it might be a different way, but it's your way.
Love it. Wow. God bless you. And I agree with you that pain is not the enemy. To me, pain means you're alive because you're feeling it.
You're here.
Have a blessed day. Nancy, hang on for a second, everybody. We will see you next time. Take care, everybody.